Welcome to our deep dive into the art market, where we'll explore how artificial intelligence is changing this age-old arena. Our guide is Joe Lawson-Tancred's book, AI and the Art Market. Get ready for some fascinating insights from experts and collectors alike as they grapple with navigating this new world.
It really forces us to re-examine some fundamental questions like how we determine authenticity value and even how we experience art in a world increasingly influenced by AI.
Absolutely. Let's jump right into the authentication debate. Lawson-Tancred throws us right into the fire with a story about art recognition.
A Swiss company.
Yes, a Swiss company that used AI to analyze a Rubens painting at the National Gallery in London. They claimed with 92% confidence that it was not a genuine Rubens.
Right, and what's really interesting is the mixed reactions it provoked. Art historian Niels Butner, a leading Rubens expert, questioned the AI's training data, really emphasizing the importance of transparency. Meanwhile, the National Gallery remained cautious, but those who were already skeptical about the painting's authenticity really latched onto the AI's assessment.
So it seems like AI is intensifying these debates rather than resolving them. The book also talks about the analysis of a Raphael painting where two different AI models came to completely opposite conclusions about its authenticity.
Oh, wow. That's a really great example that illustrates the complexity of this issue. I mean, each model is trained and analyzes things differently.
Right.
So it makes sense that you could get different results, but it definitely raises questions about reliability.
And trust, right? I mean, how do we trust a system if we don't fully understand how it's making its decisions? Lawson-Tancred really stresses that the training data is crucial here. AI relies on digital representations of the artwork, but those images might not capture all the nuances of the original.
Exactly. It's not just about having a lot of data, but about the quality and accuracy of that data and the need for expert input to really distinguish between originals and sanctioned copies. The book uses the example of Rubens, who often had his assistants create copies of his work.
It's mind-boggling to think about the amount of detail required to train an AI effectively to be able to tell the difference between a genuine Rubens and a sanctioned copy made by an assistant. It's like trying to teach a machine the eye of a master connoisseur.
Definitely. Just like a connoisseur's expertise comes from years of experience, an effective AI model requires carefully curated data, ideally with input from specialists in the field.
And yet the book observes that the main people using AI authentication right now are private collectors, not the major institutions. Why do you think museums and galleries are so hesitant to fully embrace it?
Well, the art market is built on trust, and reputable dealers and auction houses have spent decades building their reputations. So they're understandably cautious about adopting a new technology that's still a bit of a black box in terms of how it actually works.
Lawson-Tancred makes a really interesting point about the legal implications. She suggests that if courts start accepting AI authentication as evidence, it could lead to much wider acceptance within the art market. Imagine AI analysis becoming a standard part of settling art market disputes.
I can see that happening. It would be interesting to see AI being used alongside scientific analyses like pigment dating to potentially provide a more robust authentication process.
But wouldn't that also raise a whole bunch of new questions about liability? I mean, if an AI model makes a mistake, who's responsible? The developer, the expert who helped curate the data, or the person who commissioned the analysis? It seems like a legal minefield.
You've hit on a crucial point there. The legal and ethical implications of AI authentication are definitely complex and still evolving. But what's clear is that AI has the potential to profoundly impact the art market. It's already forcing us to reconsider how we think about authenticity and grapple with new questions about objectivity, transparency, and the role of expertise.
So, moving on from authentication, Lawson-Tancred takes us into the realm of art valuation. She starts by addressing a persistent issue, the lack of transparency in the art market, particularly when it comes to private sales data.
Right. The book highlights how relying solely on auction records to determine the value of art can be really misleading. Auction results only represent a small fraction of the market, and they can be influenced by all sorts of factors that have nothing to do with the inherent value of the artwork, like bidding wars or hype.
I was really fascinated by how Lawson-Tancred connects the desire to quantify the value of art with the art market's growing role as an investment opportunity. She talks about the Time Sotheby's Index, which was an early attempt to track art prices like a stock market index, and the Kunstkompass, which ranks artists based on their exhibition history and critical reception.
Those early efforts, though imperfect, really reflect this desire for more clarity in a market that's often seen as opaque and subjective. And with AI, we're seeing a new wave of attempts to try to automate art valuation. Companies like Appraisal Bureau and LiveArt are using AI to analyze market data and generate price estimates.
But can a machine really understand all the subjective elements that contribute to an artwork's worth? Things like taste, cultural significance, and artist reputation? It's almost like asking a computer to comprehend human emotions.
That's a great point, and it's something that the book addresses. AI valuation models rely heavily on quantifiable data like past sales, exhibition history, and even broader economic indicators. But while they can identify trends and patterns, the book really emphasizes the continuing importance of human expertise in interpreting that data.
Lawson-Tancred mentions that appraisal bureau, for instance, primarily uses AI as a sort of co-pilot automating tasks like data cleansing and analysis, but leaving the final valuation to human appraisers.
It's like having an AI assistant to crunch the numbers while the human expert still makes the ultimate judgment call. It's an approach that seems to be gaining popularity, especially with clients from the tech world who are already comfortable with data-driven decision-making.
But doesn't that raise concern about bias? I mean, if AI models are trained on existing market data, won't they just perpetuate the inequalities that are already present in the art world?
That's a really important consideration. AI models are only as good as the data they're trained on. So if that data reflects existing biases, the AI will likely reproduce them. The book really stresses the ethical considerations surrounding the use of AI for valuation, particularly the potential for conflict of interest and the need for transparency about the training data that's being used.
Lawson-Tancred also delves into this idea of knowledge graphs. These graphs essentially map out the complex web of relationships within the art world, connecting artists, galleries, museums, and collectors. Companies like Artifacts are using AI to analyze these graphs and try to predict things like artist momentum and the potential for future success.
What's so fascinating is how AI can identify patterns and connections that humans might miss. It's like having this aerial view of the art market and being able to see these hidden pathways to success.
But wouldn't that create a self-fulfilling prophecy? I mean, if an AI model predicts that an artist is going to become really successful and collectors start rushing to invest in their work, wouldn't that actually cause the prediction to come true? It's like the AI is manipulating the market rather than just reflecting it.
That's a very valid point and something the book acknowledges. The use of AI in the art market, whether it's for authentication valuation or market analysis, raises profound questions about the nature of expertise, the role of human judgment, and the potential for technology to both disrupt and reinforce existing power structures.
It seems like AI is forcing the art world to confront some uncomfortable truths. It's not just about adopting new tools, it's about challenging long-held assumptions and really thinking about the implications of using these technologies.
And that in itself is valuable. I think AI is serving as this catalyst for critical reflection, prompting us to consider what really matters: the art itself, the artists who create it, and the complex network of relationships that sustain this unique ecosystem.
So, from the intricacies of authentication to the evolving landscape of valuation, let's now shift our attention to something completely different: the emergence of AI art itself.
It's such an exciting and rapidly developing field. We're seeing AI being used to create art that's not only visually stunning, but also conceptually profound. It's really pushing the boundaries of what's possible and challenging our understanding of what constitutes art in the digital age. As we delve deeper, Lawson-Tancred highlights how galleries are adapting to present this digitally native art form. She talks about Robilant plus Vuana, a gallery known for exhibiting old masters that held an exhibit of AI-augmented dreamscapes by Daniel Ambrosi. Inspired by English country estates, these pieces were printed on light boxes to sort of mimic the luminosity of screens.
It's really interesting how they bridge that gap between traditional and AI art. They even draw comparisons to Capability Brown, the historical landscape architect. They found that collectors were actually more open to learning about AI because it was so new. It's like the unfamiliarity made it less intimidating.
That's a really insightful observation. Lawson-Tancred also discusses the photographer Maisie Cousins, who used AI to recreate these lost family videos of a trip to Blobbyland, that British theme park from the 90s.
Oh, wow.
These images were then part of a larger installation that included music and sculptures, really blurring the lines between human and machine creativity.
I love how this example really shows the conceptual depth that AI can bring to art. Cousins wasn't just creating pretty pictures. She was exploring themes of memory loss and this uncanny sort of collective consciousness that AI seems to be able to tap into. It reminds me of how some artists are using AI to examine societal biases that are reflected in the data.
Absolutely. The book also features Jake Elwes, whose work is in major museum collections. Elwes created The ZZ Show, which was this deepfake drag cabaret using AI-generated videos of performers. Gazzelli Art House, which is a gallery that focuses on digital art, projected these videos onto a mirrored floor, giving them this really interesting three-dimensional presence.
That's really pushing the boundaries, isn't it? AI is allowing artists to experiment with entirely new forms of expression. It's really blurring the lines between physical and digital. Lawson-Tancred calls this physical art and suggests that we're just at the very beginning of exploring its possibilities.
She also looks at how Unit London, another gallery that champions digital art, has been showing the work of established AI artists like Tyler Hobbs, who has a big following in the Web3 community. His exhibit, Mechanical Hand, really focused on the unpredictable aspects of creating physical art, with AI emphasizing the kind of fingerprint of the machine in the process.
I'm seeing a pattern here. All of these galleries are being really thoughtful about how they present AI art. They're not just sticking it on a screen and calling it a day. They're creating these immersive, multisensory experiences that encourage engagement and understanding.
Exactly. The book also talks about Anka Kulti's gallery, which is dedicated to digital and new media art. They've done exhibitions on things like AI portraiture and the anxieties of our technologically driven world. And during the pandemic, they launched an online platform to showcase digitally native work in its kind of natural habitat.
So it's not just about physical galleries anymore. AI art is expanding the very space of exhibition, blurring the lines between online and offline experiences. It makes me wonder, are we moving towards a future where art primarily exists in the digital realm?
Lawson-Tancred touches on this. She observes that the rise of NFTs and these Web3 communities revealed this whole new demographic of collectors who are really tech-savvy and completely comfortable engaging with art online.
And these aren't your typical art collectors, right? They come from the tech world. They're used to things moving fast, and they expect a level of transparency that the traditional art market doesn't always provide.
Right, they value things like community and open access and data-driven insights. The book notes that while the hype around NFTs has cooled down a bit since that peak in 2021, there's still this dedicated group of collectors who are really active, and they're drawn to those democratic ideals of Web3 and the innovative potential of AI art.
But can this Web3 model, with its focus on decentralization and cutting out the middleman, really coexist with the traditional gallery system, which thrives on exclusivity and these carefully cultivated relationships?
That's a key tension that Lawson-Tancred explores. She describes how established auction houses like Christie's are adapting. They're launching online platforms specifically for digital art and even collaborating directly with artists on the primary market. They're recognizing that they need to cater to this new wave of collectors.
It's like these two worlds are colliding. The traditional art market, with all its history and hierarchies, is being challenged by this fast-paced, tech-driven world of Web3. It's such an interesting cultural clash.
And it's not just about buying and selling art, it's also about how we experience it. Lawson-Tancred mentions physical exhibitions which blend real, virtual, and augmented realities. It's like taking the immersiveness of video games and applying it to the art world.
Imagine walking into a gallery where the art is actually interacting with you in real time, responding to your movements and your emotions. It's almost as if the artwork becomes this living, breathing entity.
It's definitely pushing the boundaries of what we consider to be an art experience. The book suggests that these visual exhibitions are especially appealing to younger audiences who have grown up with digital interactivity.
Could these new forms of art and engagement actually broaden the art market, reaching people who might have felt excluded from or intimidated by the traditional art world?
It's certainly possible. AI art is challenging conventions, democratizing access, and creating new avenues for both creative expression and audience engagement. It's a powerful force for disruption, and the book suggests that we're only just beginning to scratch the surface.
It all sounds so fascinating and so complex.
It is, but what's becoming increasingly clear is that AI art is not just some passing fad. It's prompting these really important conversations about the future of art, the nature of creativity, and even the very definition of art itself.
It feels like AI is forcing us to rethink our entire relationship with art, from how it's created to how we experience it. We're venturing into uncharted territory. And with that in mind, let's turn our attention to some of the legal and ethical challenges that AI art presents. So as AI art is gaining momentum, it's raising all these complex legal questions, especially around copyright. Lawson-Tancred points out that different countries are taking different approaches. The U.S., for example, recently denied copyright protection for an AI-generated image, arguing that it lacked human authorship.
That's a pretty significant ruling. It seems like the U.S. legal system is having a tough time keeping up with how rapidly AI is developing. In contrast, Lawson-Tancred mentions that the UK has been protecting computer-generated works for decades. They grant copyright to the person who arranged for the work's creation.
Wow, that's quite a difference. And then you have the European Union, which seems to be somewhere in between. They might allow copyright for AI-assisted works, but only if there's clear evidence of human creative input. It makes you wonder how much human involvement is actually needed for something to be considered copyrightable. Is it enough to just provide a prompt, Or does it have to be some more substantial creative contribution?
That's a big question, and Lawson-Tancred really digs into the concerns of artists like Kelly McKernan, Carla Ortiz, and Sarah Anderson, who actually filed a lawsuit challenging the use of their names and styles in AI prompts. They argue that AI-generated images that mimic their work could really hurt them both financially and artistically.
It's almost like AI is blurring the line between inspiration and just straight-up copying. Lawson-Tancred suggests that one possible solution could be data licensing agreements between artists and AI developers. It reminds me of how the music industry had to adapt to digital streaming by creating those royalty models.
It's a good analogy. The book also highlights some interesting new approaches like spawning, which is a platform co-founded by the artist Holly Herndon and her partner Matt Dryhurst. They've created these plugins that allow users to borrow an artist's style while ensuring that the artist gets paid for it.
It's like giving artists more control over how their work is used in AI. Instead of just being data points, they actually become stakeholders in the AI art ecosystem.
Right, and the book suggests that this shift towards artist ownership and control of AI data could be really important for protecting artists' rights as technology continues to advance so quickly.
It's great to see artists and developers working together to find these more ethical and equitable ways to create AI art. But it also feels like such a massive challenge given the sheer volume of data that's used to train these models.
For sure. The book ends by emphasizing the need for ongoing dialogue, experimentation, and collaboration between artists, developers, legal experts, and really the entire art market.
It feels like we're at this really crucial moment. AI is undoubtedly transforming the art market, and it's up to us to decide how that transformation unfolds. Do we embrace its disruptive potential, even if it means risking the erosion of artistic authorship and the commodification of creativity? Or can we find ways to integrate AI more thoughtfully, respecting artists' rights, while also harnessing its power to expand the art market, create new forms of expression, and foster innovation?
Those are some big questions. And Lawson-Tancred's book doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but it does give us some valuable insights into the challenges and opportunities we're facing. It really encourages us to think critically, have these open conversations, and consider the long-term implications of this technology.
So to wrap things up, let's recap some of the key takeaways from our deep dive into AI in the art market. First, AI is being used to authenticate artworks, which could bring more objectivity to the process, but it's also raising concerns about transparency and bias.
And then there's the emergence of AI-powered valuation tools, which aim to provide more transparency around pricing, but they're heavily reliant on auction data and raise some thorny ethical questions.
We also talked about how knowledge graphs are being used to map the complex relationships in the art market, offering insights into things like artist momentum and market trends.
AI art itself is attracting a new generation of tech-savvy collectors, which is forcing galleries and auction houses to rethink their business models.
And we're seeing these really innovative physical exhibitions that are blurring the lines between physical and digital art experiences, which could potentially make the art world more accessible to a wider audience.
On the legal side, copyright law is struggling to keep up with AI, leading to uncertainty about who owns and controls AI-generated works. Artists are understandably worried about how their work and styles are being used in AI training datasets and whether they'll be fairly compensated.
But it's not all doom and gloom. There are some promising developments like data licensing agreements, royalty models, and platforms like spawning that are giving artists more control over their AI data.
Ultimately, the future of the art market in the age of AI depends on finding a balance between technological innovation and the protection of artists' rights.
So as we conclude our deep dive into AI in the art market, we want to leave you with this thought. AI is undeniably a powerful force, with the potential to both enrich and disrupt the art world. The choices we make today will determine how that impact unfolds.
The conversation is just beginning. How do you see AI shaping the future of art? What role do you want to play in this evolving landscape? We encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.